Just quick rebuilding a deck that I made today.
Yeah, I put together Anarch, and it's not even version 1. I don't feel very comfortable with the list. The influence I'm using is bad, but
This is the first list I felt is actually like okay. Like even that maybe is too strong.
well, like that's just one of the things about deck building, and in deck building in Netrunner is such an iterative process.
Absolutely.
Holy smokes.
Yep.
Like if I go over to deck builder, yeah, Ken's on 1.4. And I think Ken started before started at like a below 0.1, and
Yeah.
I iterated that every time I upped one, uh, and then you can see like a bunch of the same, you know, runners. Same, yeah. There's just a lot of bits
Well,
here.
and like I don't know if this is like actually backed up by fact or anything, but it definitely feels harder to like cut down to minimum deck size in Netrunner than compared to most card games.
Well, in one of the things that makes that I feel makes that true in Netrunner is that like on the Corp side, you have this required set of cards you have to fit in,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have like this wiggle room on your deck size, which makes it like it's hilarious to me that Netrunner is maybe the only game where people pick the top end of the.
Yeah, it is really kind of funny, isn't it? That
There's
even though the Corp min deck size is 45, basically no one plays
no,
45.
yeah, nobody plays 45 because you have 4 free includes to
Yeah, 4
water
additional
down.
cards to include that aren't agendas, which yeah, waters down, I guess, the overall number that are in your deck or likely to be found by the runner at least.
And that's not to say that I haven't seen 45. It's been rare. Uh,
Yeah, I mean it does
but
happen
like,
now and
but
then.
I feel like it's just how it is. You just go on the top end there. But then, like on runner, God, is it hard to hit? Like, it's kind of funny how that evolved over like size of the card pool was obviously a big part there. But like on back when we played with like just Genesis Cycle,
Hmm.
um, hitting 45 was
Kind of a challenge actually. Yeah, you're
yeah.
right. You definitely had to play some
I,
uh
the the big thing I
less
remember
than ideal cards.
the big thing I remember is that at the plugged in tour, um, you had the choice between Fisk and the Collective.
Yep.
I'm gonna pull up Fisk because that's the card people, you know here because this is the card that got printed.
That actually exists. Yep.
Um,
Which is was never really considered a good card, I don't think.
I think
Seriously, at least.
I've seen people play it as a way to like as a way to force the corp to be overburdened with resources.
Yeah, it's almost like kind of a more of an anarch type effect, really, like trying to overload the corp and
Because
force them to trash stuff they don't want to.
yeah, you give them so many things, they become agenda flooded because they're drawing too quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of decks can just be like, cool, thanks for the free card.
Yep.
At the time, so Fisk again, you take a look at Fisk, 45-15 base. The collective on the other side was had I think it was Jeeves text, give or take, close to Jeeves's text. It was something like that. Like if you took 3 actions of the same action in a row, you got a 4th action.
Mm-hmm.
It was close to that. It might have been worded differently. But the identity was 55.
Yeah.
If I remember the
Yep. It was
them right.
5.
Yeah, and this was at a time where like I think we just had the box for Shaper and HB,
Mm-hmm.
and so like people were like, "Oh my god, how are you going to do a 50 card deck with 5 influence? What are you going to pull? 3 data suckers and call it a day?" Like,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think that might have been one of the big reasons that the collective lost is because people.
right.
But now,
Well, and it was even worse. It was three suckers, one Yogg, and one Mimic, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you just got like bonko crazy breakers
But
for your
nowadays,
5 influence.
like Val is one of the more generally accepted. Like, this is a strong, especially for like rebirth decks. Val's a really strong choice for those,
Hmm.
and Val easily hits that 50. Like nowadays
Yeah.
with a card pool the size as it is, you don't feel that constraint,
Yep.
and even might still have a bigger amount of like might go above that even.
Yeah. And I guess maybe that's just testament to like the overall card quality has gotten better. Um, more options for sure, but I think there definitely are generally more playable cards in the newer sets than
Yeah,
compared to the older sets.
yeah. So
But anyways, new cards
yeah,
we still got to talk about.
speaking of newer cards here, we still have. So last week we started with the runner side here. You can see we started with Asa, we started with Sable, and we and Padma went over all the additions that they had. Cat, um, a lot of like a lot of interesting stuff and a lot of stuff that like is writing a check to see what we go with in the second half. Where are we
Hmm.
going with power counters? Where are we going with like how heavy into core damage are we going to be going? That sort of thing. So we have questions on what the back half will be. Corp side doesn't have the same. There's not a corp mechanic for every
Yep.
side here. There are new keywords, I guess. We do have at least one new keyword here,
Hmm.
um, which is just which is strange, but we'll get to that actually pretty quickly. Um, anyway, so
First up, do you want to try to pronounce this?
oh god, I didn't open up the guide.
That's a lot of accents on that word. I don't know if I can
Elvigar bifurcation. I mean, it's
bifurcation. Yeah.
that's to split. And the
It's a 2-1 agenda.
all right, I'm gonna have a quick
Okay.
read more.
There was one bit of interesting news that we didn't talk about yet. I don't know if you
Oh
want to cover it
yeah,
here.
yeah. Let me
Um,
let me pull up the
it has to do with names.
pronunciation guide, which is not on.
It might have been after. Yeah, I think it was after charging ahead. Probably go back a page.
Back page pronunciation guide.
There it is.
Okay.
I did notice there were some words on here that aren't on here that I wish were. I think this may be one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. The note is them removing Nisei and Project Nisei as a name and just sticking with from they're gonna be sticking with Nisei as their website, right? Like they're not like
No, the entire Nisei organization is looking to drop the name Nisei.
yeah, but then what is the name of the organization? Do we
They
have that
haven't
yet?
decided yet.
Okay. I
They want to keep the N logo, but they do not have a name yet chosen to replace it.
okay.
But yeah, so they are also updating the card backs to drop that name as well. Which I think does just look better. If you go to the top image, it just looks clean. Um,
That's gonna be tough in the sense of changing card backs means you have dubious legality with sleeves.
yep, but it's an issue that we're already
Yeah,
struggling
that
with.
was a that was an old issue back in the Fantasy Flight
Even
days.
when it was just
Um,
Fantasy Flight, yeah.
God, that was an because
Certain promos and alt arts just did not print anywhere near the same color.
yeah. So
Um,
like you and like the feel of a promo.
Yeah, like the
Fantasy
card
Flight,
stock was different.
Fantasy
It
Flight,
was
when they did their promos, would do them on like a different print run.
it was really not great. But
Yeah,
I mean, luckily it didn't matter too much once they were in sleeves. I mean, there may be ways to still tell the difference with just
yeah,
based on the like
I
feel of
know
it, but
that's that is true. No, that like Nisei, as because again, as they mentioned, it's second generation
mhm.
is fitting as a name for the project, which is why it was named it, because this is the second generation of Netrunner. Well, I guess maybe it's
It's
not.
actually not.
I guess it's
That's
the
the funny
third,
thing. Uh, I mean,
but
really it's the rebirth of the second gen of Netrunner.
yes. So, um, I guess we'll see what they end up choosing. I do hope they just stick with these card backs and don't add a new moniker below.
Yep, it seems like that's the plan.
I know there's a bunch of notes
It
down
would be
here.
very silly to make that change and then go and say, oh well, we're gonna add a new name to this later. Like
Yeah,
I don't know. I suppose it could happen.
but yeah,
So, anyways, Elevagar bifurcation 2/1 HB agenda security. When you scroll this agenda, you may derez one installed card. Um, I think most notably, it's a 2/1,
yeah.
which
So here's the trick about this card. You might look at that text and be like, "Why the hell am I derezzing an installed card?" Let me redirect your question. Do you know how many 2/1s were playable because they were 2/1s?
hmm
Like like this is a very specific type of agenda that on its own has its own piece of power, especially if I were to just go up here and click on Rain and Reverie and oh look, I wonder what just showed up here. Is
Yep.
Space Metal still legal or is this dead?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Good.
That's still legal.
Okay, good.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, so you just I don't know. And could be any deck that might want a 2/1.
Yep. And at least in this cycle, derezzing has a certain synergy with other cards, so it's not completely useless.
The
It is
first
tempo
thing
negative, which is not ideal, but
the first thing I would think is that you would be able to use this to reset a campaign.
yep.
Um,
Yep.
okay. Does a derezed campaign lose its money?
No,
I think it keeps
it'll
it.
keep the money. Yep.
If I remember this from other things, so like say you have a Maryland and it's on its last click, you do this, you derez it. It has $2 sitting on it face down. Then you flip it over and it gains 8. So like it's a way to extend that. But the obvious synergy we'll see here is with this harmonic ice that we'll be looking at.
hmm
Really, the 2/1 is the nature on this. If I all right, hi, it's time to use my bit here. How many 2/1s exist in Netrunner?
I was just wondering that.
So let's
Every
go.
faction has at least one.
So let's
Um,
go. I want card pool all. This is gonna be
yeah, set type 2 agenda,
type 2
and
agenda
I think
point
cost should be equal to
2.
advancement cost. So just do that.
That
And
should be
then
everything.
view as full art. You're gonna want that.
Cost did not give me anything.
Okay, so maybe there's a separate one for advancement
All right, so we
requirement.
want Corp. We want type as agenda.
Is there a separate? Always
No attributes, subtypes.
that seems odd.
Is there not a? We can't do it on. Well, I mean, it could be influence, but influence because obviously agendas can't. Well, no, because agendas in
Neutrals
neutrals
can.
can.
Yeah.
What does quantity
Hmm.
mean?
Let's see if I can get the right search syntax. G is advancement cost. So if you scroll up to the search, or if you go forward, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So G. All right. So let's
So yeah,
go.
change that O to G, and it should work.
Okay.
Perfect.
So here's I'm just here to take a look at the extant 2/1s.
Yep.
So
And I was actually wondering too, because this 2/1 seems like it has a pure drawback, but I remember 2/1s as having quite a bit of an upside,
well,
especially in the early days.
may means it's just a non-existent piece of text.
True, you're right. It's not actually a drawback.
So 15 minutes. If breaking news didn't exist, I'd call it the most powerful 2/1. Breaking news, if 15 minutes didn't exist, I'd call it the most powerful 2/1. They're both the
Yep.
most powerful 2/1 because they exist in the faction with swap and agenda, which is bullshit.
Yep. Which is no
Um,
longer legal in standard. So
yes, but yeah, 15
you
minutes. If
can
it's stolen, you
sleep a
can
little
steal it
easier.
back. Breaking news: when you score it, you give them 2 tags, which can be used
Yep.
for all sorts of bits. Clone retirement was one that did have a real big drawback. When it's
Yeah.
stolen, you got a bad pub.
Yep. That's what I was thinking of when I thought I'd drawbacks with 2-1s.
Um,
I don't recognize corporate oversight. That must be a draft card.
when you win a game with corporate oversight in your score area, destroy it. What?
Interesting.
Do I need to burn this card? Like what?
Yeah, it says so. You must destroy it.
Oh my god! Yeah, this is definitely a draft card.
That's awesome.
Holy smokes!
Interesting. Sleepers is another one that kind of has a drawback because in order for it to be worth a point, you got to spend a whole turn. But usually that's just the last turn of the game. So is it a drawback? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, its drawback is that like you included and like it's worth 0 points, and it's but like
True. True. That's actually an interesting point. Yeah, it doesn't actually count towards your agenda total, and it doesn't actually count for points for the runner if they steal it. So
hostile takeovers, maybe the most known 2-1, other than these up here. Gain 5, 7,
yep,
and take a bad
it's
pub.
probably my favorite agenda in the whole game.
Here's the lead, and then we have a couple 2-0s. Here's Kusanagi. Nobody in the history of the game has ever played this one. I'm sorry, Kusanagi, but it's true. Um,
Yeah.
place 1 agenda counter on it for each advancement over 2. This is effectively just a trap that like is an agenda rather than is an asset.
Yeah, I guess so.
But the other problem is it's text. Choose a piece of ice, do 1 net damage after all the subs.
Yeah.
Which like that's nothing. Standoff
Yep.
I've seen play. Um, 2 advancement agendas in Wayland mean a lot more because of the forfeiting an agenda as the cost for certain ice.
Yep. I can't remember if standoff actually has an errata or just a rules clarification, but there was a while when it first came out where people were interpreting it to mean you can trash any card, including the other players.
Yeah.
So you would take turns blowing each other's stuff up, which maybe is more of an interesting effect. I'm not really sure.
Point being that LVR is just a 2-1 with like you're going to have to work to make this a strong text. So it fits more in line with like it's below our 3 existing ones, above clone retirement, but like
Yeah. It's certainly not a build around me card, but if there is a deck that desires a 2-1 that is HB, it's going to play that card.
and like sports metal kind of
Yeah.
sings to that if
Yep.
you're not doing combo nonsense. All right. Looking at our other,
Another agenda.
yep, Midnight 3 Arcology.
Yep. And I can't remember if this was in one of the like flavor articles or something else, but Midnight 3 Arcology is a prison. It's not a habitat or something like that. It's where people are put for a long time and never
Yeah.
heard from again.
When you score this agenda, draw 3. Um, skip your discard step this turn. You effectively have a buff, infinite grip for that 1 turn.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, this is an interesting one as like a forward progress for continuing your plays. Your HQ is going to be pretty well muddled after scoring it. I mean, you drawing 3. You don't.
Yeah.
Um,
I guess draw 3's a little underwhelming for a 4-2. Like,
yeah, because like
would draw 4 be so crazy? I don't know.
well, like
Um,
the so comparable on neutral you get gain $4 on scoring cyber decks. On
or gain 7
gain
on
7
the
on
what's it called?
corporate warfare.
Uh,
No,
Off-world office.
off world. Yeah. So like 3 cards is I don't know, feeling kind of weak comparatively. I can see that.
The real power text is that second sentence. Skipping your
Right.
discard means you can hold up to 8 in hand through the turn, or more actually, if you manage to draw above 5 on your turn.
True. Well, also the more I'm looking at this, the more I'm thinking combo piece because
Hmm.
like skip your discard step, sure, but like if you're in the middle of your turn and you draw 3, you know,
Yeah,
perhaps you're able to keep going.
Yeah, if you're just scoring 4/2s, this might be a good one to score to let you score another 4/2 on that turn.
Yeah, I know
Um,
the nonsense. I think there were like iceless sports metal combo decks, right?
oh yeah,
That was
or
what.
very minimal ice at least.
Yeah,
I've seen lists I think with as few as 3 pieces of ice in it. Um,
yeah.
with Spin Doctor, that's an easy way to draw cards without spending a click. So you can res that the turn you're scoring this, and then just hold those 2 extra cards.
Yep.
You could have a 10 card hand or more at the end of the turn. Starts to harken back to the days of cerebral imaging.
Oh boy.
Kind of interesting.
All right. Past that, we're on to assets. This one's pretty straightforward. Refugee campaign, a better
Mm-hmm.
future today. When your turn begins, gain 2. This is we have a lot of these campaigns in HB. This is looking kind of close to Eve, or
Yeah.
like in it like so. The ones that were around, Adonis was, but a lot of them would like place money on them and only have a limited amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so CBI raid rotates with the existence of this set. So
Yep. Darn, Jens, you're gonna
yeah,
have to win another world so you can
yeah,
get another card made.
yeah.
Uh,
So, but yeah,
but
the big thing with
so
this
like,
is that it doesn't run out. This is just continuous.
yep,
It take,
it will click or I guess tick every turn for as long as you can keep it on board. I guess I kind of doubt the Corp's ability just to protect this forever.
right.
Especially with the cost as it is, this takes a long time to even just break even. Um,
Again, that's why it made me think of Eve.
yeah, it
Eve
definitely is more like Eve, I
Eve was
think.
5/5, 5 to play, 5 to
And
cost,
you put 16 on it and
and
took 2 off every turn.
yes. So that's why it makes me think of this because like Eve running out was something that never happened because like holy 8 turns, what the hell? You know,
Mm,
um. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like this one is like right now HB has 2 other pretty strong campaigns that are cheaper to play,
mm-hmm.
and I feel like those probably like kind of rebuff this because like Maryland, like both Maryland and the other one that
Nico
is,
campaign, I think.
yeah, they both are 2 for 2 and like they repay themselves the turn of and they last 4 turns, but like
Nico's actually 3, I believe.
is
You
it
you
3?
load 9, take 3
And
off,
then
and
you
then when
draw
it
a card
dies,
on
you
the
draw.
last. Yeah, you draw a
Yeah.
card on the last one. Yeah,
Yep.
I don't know. It's hard to beat.
Yeah. Yeah. This doesn't immediately stand out among its competition. Um. I mean, this kind of feels like a core set card, like very basic, not pushed really at all. Um. Extremely simple to understand. Um.
Though like
Maybe solid in a future state where those other cards aren't available, I suppose.
it also might be like if you want overwhelming amounts of cash, which I don't know why anybody in HP would want overwhelming amounts
Hmm.
of cash.
Hmm.
But perhaps they just go so wide that like you're playing a deck that's going so wide and playing like you know like an untouchable amount of
Yeah,
remotes.
maybe we see more of like a asset spam near Earth Hub style of HB in the future.
Yeah.
Um, certainly
So
possible.
all right.
One of the
Uh,
coolest cards in the set.
yeah. Was
Uh,
this?
I think it's Trieste model Bioroids. This one's on
Yeah,
here, I think.
Trieste.
Yep, Trieste.
All right, so Tristan
Um,
model Bioroids. When you res this asset, choose one resed piece of Bioroid ice. Runner card abilities cannot break subroutines.
yep, yep. Runner
So,
card abilities cannot break subroutines when
so,
chosen ice.
to take a look at, say, just looking at Akari over here. This is a Bioroid ice. This card would make it unbreakable by breakers. But this ability right here is not a runner card ability, that's a corp card ability. So they can still use the on card, click through.
Yep. So it is a card ability, but it is not a runner card ability.
However, if I'm just going to put in a card that was recently freed from the ban list,
Yep.
the card ability on Fairchild that lets you break through is triple click on it, which makes it a hell of a thing to
You
run into.
basically can only do that if you run it click 1.
Yes.
And then you spend the rest of your turn just breaking that ice.
And hopefully
Yeah,
killing the.
preventing runners from being able to break ice seems pretty strong. It's not terribly expensive. I think probably the biggest, maybe most awkward aspect of this card is that it's an asset, so you can't put this in with another card you're trying to defend. It kind of defends itself, or I guess leaves itself exposed, defending another server most likely.
Yeah.
But maybe that's good enough. You know, I guess maybe in that sense, it's kind of like a RP effect where you have to run twice to get in the server that you want to get into.
And like also the damage this can do is pretty hefty, as I mentioned. You run into a Fairchild without, you know, uh,
A full 3 clicks. You're just gonna
you're
run into it,
you're either gonna lose 6 or lose your board, or you know,
take take a damage or end the run. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean it's very 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 punishing.
So obviously, this wants to be played with ones that are more 2.0 or 3.0s that have a little bit harder to use um, click throughs.
Hmm.
Because like if they can click through for just one and just like bypass the ones that matter the most, like that makes them less punishing.
Yep. And I guess to be fair, there are still ways around that ice. You know, inside job will let you just bypass it completely, not having to break any subs. Um,
As
I
will,
suppose Light the Fire will disable this card long enough for you to get into that server if it is protecting itself, which maybe at that point you don't care.
yeah.
Um,
Or maybe you're going in there to get rid of Anoetic Void that this is sitting on top of or something like that. Who knows?
yeah, and maybe this card just kind of serves the role of like defending the upgrades in your server until you have an agenda that you want to score. Um, which is kind of a cool role for a card. I don't think we've seen anything like that yet in Netrunner. So
Yeah.
a lot of potential here. This was designed by a world champion. I think it says 2019 on there.
Yes,
Kind of blurry for me.
that's 2019.
Yeah, Pencil, who is a I guess a household name when it comes to competitive Netrunner. Fantastic player. Um, very cool card.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
really like that. All right, next up we have our new mechanic in Harmonic. This is Echo. It's a barrier, 0 strength. Whenever you res a piece of Harmonic ice, place a power counter on this. This ice gains end the run for each hosted power counter. And it has fun flavor text, which
Oh, nice. Actually, I didn't see that yet. That's
yeah.
cool.
This card is reminiscent of. I'm just gonna put the word next in all caps here.
Yep.
Familiar with older cards?
Yeah. So HB is no stranger to I guess subtype
Yeah, like
stacking.
tribal ice, as it
Yeah.
were. Um,
The next suite was never really that strong. I mean, it did get played, I think, a couple times.
there were a while where next bronze and silver were the only two that existed along with design. And
That's
and
true.
and
Yeah, for
and
a long time, we just didn't have any next ice to play, really.
and then what happened is we got all this next ice, and these two rotated, and then you were stuck playing next diamond, next gold in your
Oh,
tribal
that's
deck. So
right.
like
They totally neutered it with rotation. Yeah.
yeah, so it never really it only had a short period where it was actually like powered. So here we have the harmonic, which is a type only on 2 cards, which
Yep.
again is one of those. We'll see how
And
this.
it's kind of hard to evaluate without seeing both. So I always we might as well just show both of them.
Yeah. So wave down here when you res this ice, um, during a run against this server. Okay. I guess you can't res it with like a outside effect to get this. Search R&D
Hmm.
for a piece of ice, reveal it, add it to HQ, and then it's one subroutine is gain $1 for each resed harmonic ice.
Yeah. So this is definitely more of a support, I think, style ice. whereas Echo is more of a like kind of cornerstone ice that like I guess you need to play as a Corp to try to defend servers.
Yeah,
Um,
it's kind
with
of
just these two, it seems unlikely that these cards see a lot of play, but I suppose we'll probably see more in the future.
Fruit Salad Kung Fu. Thank you very much for the 100 bits. Yeah, the okay, but yeah, like the problem here, looking at just these two, is that like Wave is the tutor, so like Wave tutors Echo, but you need to Echo gets its power on res, so like what are you resing next? So like your Echo,
Yeah,
like so it's kind of awkward in that way where you have to power your Echo that way.
Echo does power itself, right?
Yes, this whole
Like the timing on
this
that
is
trigger seems odd, but I guess I just trust that it comes with one sub default.
otherwise this card's unplayable.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So yeah, I think right now, and this is kind of a running bit. Like right now, I'm not convinced these are like going to be making waves. I don't think they're going to be.
Yeah, this kind of feels like our next silver and bronze, except for one of them doesn't end the run.
Yeah.
I really can't see these seeing much play currently.
Yeah.
Echo though maybe is good enough just as a cheap barrier. I mean, two
Yeah.
costs end the run is not terrible,
That also
especially out of
like
Valen.
other echoes. Even if you're just playing 3 Echo,
Yeah,
you get end the run and the run and the run.
and I guess I assume generally that increasing subroutines is more inefficient for the runner than increasing strength.
It depends on
Um,
the. I mean, the thing is, right now, like if we're comparing it, one problem is a zero cost barrier or a zero strength barrier is actually really like easy to break through. Like just
mhm.
because of there's like that new shaper breaker that has power counters to pump strength, but just breaks everything, all
Yep.
subs.
Or like Turtle just breaks it
Yeah,
forever.
yeah. Turtle breaks it on
Um,
zero. Yeah, and like Paperclip doesn't care if it was strength or subs; it just is X.
yep.
So
So it's not universally better than strength, but that's just kind of how I think of it
yeah,
generally.
so
Um,
yeah, not huge on this, but this is put a pin on
mhm.
these, and once we see like more that can work with it, maybe Wave has its place just as uh like the tutor is that worth it or something like that.
Yeah, I mean like it is
I
pretty
I
good like tempo, I think,
like
for Piece of Ice.
I put this on HQ and go tutor Archangel when my opponent runs on HQ to laugh at them. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Our next piece of ice. Okay, Fruit Salad Kung Fu is looking for ice that Mega Man EXE could not beat. This is a big shark. With a beefy arm. I think the big
Mm-hmm.
shark with a beefy arm has a good matchup. Hakari. I'm sorry. That's not Hakari. Is that Hakarl?
Yep. Hakarl,
Hakarl.
the type
Hakarl
of fish, I
1.0.
believe.
When you res this ice during a run against the server, you may derez another installed card. If you do, again, we have that derez effect. The runner cannot use paint abilities printed on Bioroid ice
Mm-hmm.
for the remainder of this run. You might note we have a combination here with Hakarl and the Trieste that blocks out all abilities.
Yep.
Click, break a sub, deal 1 core damage, and the run. We are looking at so we have this is Victor, but it's a barrier instead of a code gate, right?
Yeah, it
That's
doesn't seem bad, honestly.
right,
I mean, it's a little bit expensive, 5 cost.
right. But
But
like being unable to Bioroid through is really interesting. One of the things I think we're gonna have to keep an eye out for with regard to just like HB is like we have a couple cards right now that care about like we have multiple, almost half the cards here that care about this derez bit.
Mhm.
Derez an installed card, resing of ice. So if you re-res this, you'd get more power counters. Same with Carl. So like if that's something that has more payoffs, it's funny. The best card I can think of for it rotates
What's that?
the advanced assembly lines.
Oh,
which
Yeah, probably.
that's the best card I can think of for it by a mile, and it's from Moonbot if I'm remembering my sets right.
Yep.
I'm just gonna. No, I'm sorry. I have this open for a reason. Lines. Yeah, it's in business first. So this is the card I think of whenever I think of res derez. Advanced assembly lines 1. When you res advanced assembly lines, gain 3. Trash. Install a card from HQ. Other than an agenda, you cannot use this ability during a run. But like,
Yep. It's not a huge amount of value, but it is value. So
yeah, it's the card I think of when it comes to like res derez.
yep.
But yeah, I'm actually pretty like, I'm up on Carl here. I think that like the size is good. We're still looking at.
Kind of reminds me of like the Heimdall cards from back in the day. Like it's a barrier that does core damage or brain damage as it used to be called.
Yeah. Same thing. If you missed the last time, core and brain are the same.
Yep. Which you don't see often on barriers, especially lower cost ones. I mean, 5's not really low cost, but
I mean, again,
yeah, Victor's also comparable.
I think because it's the exact same text.
It's the same subs. Yep.
It's just a barrier with one more. So, but yeah, Heimdall also had that. I think the cost is low enough that this is still strong. And the other thing I like here is that, say we have this with like, we could get to like a nice like critical mass of like really nice looking Bioroid ice. You know,
Yeah.
Fairchild being back, this being around. Because if you're playing, you know, Trieste, you want to have enough Bioroids around to work with.
Yep.
So,
and being cost 4+ means you get full value from Architects of Tomorrow, the other HB card.
Yes.
Not new card, but currently legal option.
All right, and so a lot of these have been. I think I haven't been like super, other than the Bioroid stuff. I haven't been super up on HB.
Yeah. So far, nothing crazy, but
this last
there's
card,
still one more card left.
This last card here is a pretty big deal.
Big deal.
It was a big deal. When they spoiled it, they just showed the cost and the name.
They showed everything but that middle line of text.
Yeah. Anyway, this is a terminal operation, 5 influence. It is a trashable operation. That's how you know it's going to be good, if it's a trashable operation.
Costs 17 credits.
Place 4 advancement counters on 1 installed card. You may score that card if able.
Yeah. That's a strong line of text.
So, the costing on here is the same as if it is effectively going biotic, advance 4, and then +1 on that.
Yep, but also in the sense that you're playing biotics, you're spending 3 cards that you had to draw and
correct,
all that kind of stuff. This is all 1 card. And you can't do it again.
Yeah,
yeah.
But
yeah, I don't think we've ever seen a number that big on a card in Netrunner.
No, the highest I can think of is 15.
Monolith? What's that one's 15, right? Or is that 13?
Oh wait, isn't Monolith 18?
Yeah, maybe it is 18 actually. I think you're right.
I think Monolith is bigger.
Dang.
Yeah, Monolith is 18.
Yep.
So this is the biggest on Corp side.
Yes.
The previous before this was like Wotan or Woden, the giant ice that nobody played.
Yep. Also, Janus was 15. Janus 1.0.
Those were cards you played in Blue Sun.
Exactly. Yeah. Which, I guess made me feel like Wayland was always like the big card faction, but I think it was always supposed to be HB. They've always had pretty high cost cards.
I feel like Wayland is the big money faction, and thus gets the big cards because Bulwark still exists. You know,
Bulwark still exists, but that's only 10 credits. That's nearly half. Nearly half of what Big Deal costs.
If I were to, I don't know, Action 1, install a card. Action 2, advance it. Action 3, play Big Deal. You can score a 5/3 agenda from hand.
From hand.
That,
pretty
as they say,
wild.
is a pretty big deal.
Yep.
This like I'm interested to see how game changing this card is. If this is a card that like changes deck building or makes like a
I mean, I see
glacier
this and I
score.
immediately think of like an HB like long game glacier style deck where you're building up, and then anytime you have 20 plus credits, you just jam out a 5/3,
Right,
and
and that
that's your game plan.
right, and then at some point you score one copy of
Yep.
bifurcation to get
Yep.
your seventh point. Um,
Also, this is another champion design card.
yes, 2018
This is
North
a North
American.
American champion, Sam Swede,
Yep.
who's on the right there, and I believe this is true, but on the left, I think, is Dean, who is another very prominent player in the competitive scene. Which I think is pretty cool that he got to get an extra credit in there. I guess
That's
there's no credit, but there's
but yeah,
another
a
face in
little.
there.
But yeah, I this card just is. I'm real excited about this. Again, thinking about like things you can do with it. The thing that I'm immediately thinking is that in System Update 2021, there's this little agenda called Project Beal. That when you score this agenda, you get an extra point for every 2 advancements over.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a 3-2, but it's also a 5-3, and it's also a 7-4, and it's also a 9-5.
9-5,
So
11-6, and 13-7.
so that's my thought process on big deal. Is yeah, sure, 5 influence. Yeah, all right, let's do it. Um, let's score 5-3 Beals out of hand, and with what we'll see in HB, maybe further than that. Like,
Honestly, 5 influence on a card in Netrunner is almost kind of like a dare. Like, I dare you to play this out of action. Like,
true,
do it.
true.
Spend all of your influence on this one
My
card.
my clearly the best runner deck I think I ever played is likely Andromeda. But the funniest runner deck I ever played was Chaos Theory Siphon,
Yep.
which was just like a 40 card deck in Chaos Theory where I spent all my influence on account siphons, and just you never had money because I
You
I
just played siphon
I could
after siphon
play
after siphon.
24 account siphons in a game
Yep.
because of how it was designed back then. Anyway, this
Hmm.
card is of all the EHB stuff, this shadows above it in my mind. Is
Absolutely.
is the one that is not only the most interesting, it's also like if this is something functional, like real damn powerful. Makes a lot of sense that it has a trash cost, you know, allowing disruption. If you see this in your opponent's hand, kill it.
Yeah, you probably should just kill this.
You should probably pay
Even if they
3.
have like 7 credits,
I
just kill it.
just kill it. Like if they're planning on getting to 17 money, they will have ways to get to $17.
Yep. Absolutely.
So um yeah, HB. Uh HB looks to me like it's writing some checks for the future with Echo
Yeah, it
Wave.
feels very future looking
Like yeah,
cards.
if there is maybe one or two pieces of harmonic ice that works along with this, all of a sudden this could be really deadly if you get to like 7 and the runs.
Yep. Yeah, there's probably going to be like a critical mass of harmonic ice that
That was
maybe
always
we'll only see one more.
the worry with Next. Like the
Mhm.
reason that Next was so like limited as it was that like, oh no, if there's enough Next ice to play, here's like a 9 sub silver.
Yep.
The other problem that Next ice had back in the day, that our friend doesn't share, Parasite existed.
Mhm.
And Parasite exists in a side grade form, but not, look, it's not Parasite clone ship SMC, like, data suck.
Yeah.
The deck that ran no breakers and just parasited every ice. So, so yeah, I think it's all about big deal. I'm interested to see what Bioroid stuff we can do here with Carl and the models.
Yeah, I think Trieste will see some very interesting use at some point.
Alright.
Maybe not right away, but I think eventually that will be a very cool card.
Alright, before we go into our next bit, I just need to note while we're here that personal evolution was pulled off the ban list. We said this last time, but it's now really goddamn important. Whenever an
Yep.
agenda is scored or stolen, deal 1 net damage. Discard a card at random. If they can't, they lose. All right. Anyway, after I've said that for no reason, let's take a look at one of the most exciting cards in Jinteki, Blood in the Water. We got a shark theme running here, right? Like
Yeah,
we
totally.
got Carl with the big beefy arm shark, and then we got Blood in the Water is referencing, Jaws coming for you. This is interesting because it's an X advancement agenda, 2 points.
Yeah, I don't
X
think we've
is
ever seen that on an agenda before.
X is equal to the number of cards in the runner's grip.
Yeah.
This is so that's their hand size.
Very straightforward, but very interesting sort of consequences on play, especially with personal evolution being
Yeah,
legal.
and not only that, the other card that makes me really excited with this that's still around is Obakata still exists, and
Hmm.
you have those turns where they like break your back to go steal the Obakata, and you go, cool, time to score 2 Blood in the Water. Like,
Yep.
this can get very so at 2, it's scoreable from hand. So that's
Yep. Runner having 2
powerful.
cards.
At 1, we're in the danger zone. At 0, if you're playing personal evolution, you play it, score it, and they die because they have no hand.
Hmm.
So yeah, this is a really heavy punishment for like if the runner, even if they're like, well, I didn't run, I should be safe, I'm not gonna get neural EMP'd, or I'm not gonna get complete imaged. Yeah, it is enemy AI affecting. The runner needs to be thinking about this card in ways that they haven't had to before. Because, like, the text on the full image is they had to make a run and also, like, they're on 3 points, right?
Yeah.
So, like, to play around it, you just don't make your successful run and you can play down on cards a little bit. But,
Yeah. Yeah. This is gonna really make runners play safer, I think.
yeah.
Because I think ending your turn with 1 card in hand is probably gonna be a death sentence against PE. Um, and yeah, like you said, scoring Obokata especially costs a lot of cards, so
Mm,
if you play both of these, it's gonna force the runner to play much more conservatively.
yes.
Maybe up to a point though, because I think in the past at least with Jinteki, there's certain thresholds that like the runner has to know, and then once they know that, they can fairly safely run with impunity most of
Mm-hmm.
the time.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I've experienced a lot playing against you. Um, but this is definitely more ammunition. I think tips the scales more in Jinteki's favor, which I think is sorely needed.
Yeah. And I'm just really, this is just a clean design.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've
So,
never seen an X2 agenda, and it could not be more straightforward and easy to to to
yeah.
understand.
Because
Absolutely.
and like it also it's very varied on how powerful it's gonna be. If it's a 5-2, that sucks.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, I think you only ever score this as a 3-2 or less.
yeah, I think there are worlds where you just have to install advance go with this and treat it like you're just this is an
Yeah, probably.
Obakata. Like, all right, next up, this one's also wild.
Yeah, another agenda.
So
A 3-1.
Regenesis. God, Jinteki gets some wild shit. When
Oh
you
yeah.
score this agenda, if no Corp cards have been added to archives this turn, that's really important. You may
Hmm.
reveal one face down agenda in archives and add it to your score area. So if you score Regenesis, the idea of this card being we're not going just Jurassic Park. We've made some woolly mammoths and whatever we want. But we
Yeah.
so yeah, if no you didn't put anything in archives this turn, you can score a 5-3 from down there.
Yep.
But it had to have been down there from at least last turn
Yeah.
in some way. You
Um.
can't now like
Di
to like so say, and even like you can't biotic this out or shipment from 10 in this out because that puts a card in archives. Playing an operation will
Yes.
put a card in archives and turn off the bit.
Yep. Having a Rashida pop is gonna turn that off.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of finicky, but extremely huge value if you can get it to fire. Um,
If you can score this, holy shit.
there is a card, and it's actually just to the right there
Yep.
that I think definitely combos with that card. Allowing you to basically feed agendas into archives at the end of the runner's turn, and then
Mm-hmm.
your turn starts. They can't react, and you can pull the effect. I am wondering, reading this card again, Regenesis. Why does it specify face down agenda in archives?
Obakata. It's literally just for Obakata.
But why does that matter?
Because if they run archives and see Obakata and they can't steal it,
Oh, and
you
they
can't.
would turn it face up and leave it
They
there.
turn it face
Okay,
up and leave it there.
that makes
The
sense.
reason
Okay.
so that way, like again, it's literal. That's literally just an Obakata
Yeah.
line.
So okay, so if the runner is afraid of a Regenesis combo play, they could just run archives just to flip the cards if they suspect an oboe hiding in there.
Yeah, if they and they might not be willing to take it that turn because like shit, I'm on 3 cards and this is
Mm.
click 3. There's no way I can do this and like not die. But
Or they have 5 cards and they're like, well, I'm not going to be able to end my turn with more than 1 card, so
yeah,
can't take that risk.
but like that's what that all of a sudden changes what the game's about if there's like a face up Obakata in
Mm.
archives. So that's why this says, because if this could hit a face up agenda, that would you couldn't counterplay it. Your
True.
counterplay would be like go hit the Regenesis on the table.
Yeah, I was failing to figure out what agenda the runner just wouldn't steal, but yeah,
Yeah.
obviously
Mm,
Obokata is one where you kind of have to have the resources ready to steal it.
we've said this card's name 20 times already.
Yeah.
Um, as an initial cost to steal Obakata, they must suffer 4 net damage. If you're playing P, it's actually 5. But the
Mm-hmm.
5th one comes after the steal, so if it's game point, you
Yep.
win. So yeah, Regenesis, really cool combo play, a really power. If you can get this to be 4 points for 3 advancement,
Yeah,
damn.
it's huge. It feels a little Christmas landy, but maybe not.
Well,
Maybe
maybe.
not.
Yeah. So next up, we have Bladderwort. Um, when your turn begins, gain 1. If you have 4 or less after that, do 1 net damage.
Yeah.
I love
This card
this
seems
one.
like really, really good. Like, especially compared to like older design cards. It's a 1 cost drip 1, which you don't see very often. Um, so it basically pays for itself the turn you res it. But then it also has this other cool effect where if you are poor as the Corp, you get to do damage.
Yeah, and from the way that I've found, like with playing Jinteki, you're like always poor. Like,
Yeah, firing snares, things like that. Like there's gonna be a lot of times playing Jinteki where you spend money even though you may not want to spend money. So yeah, being poor is something easy to do as
yeah,
Jinteki.
even at the low trash cost, I'm still excited by this because like 3 is still like
Yeah, that's
assuming
that's real.
assuming your opponent doesn't have like uh helpers. There are a couple cards that get commonly played: Bones, Scrubber, Miss Bones.
Hmm.
As long as they don't have something like that, the cost is still pretty real. So, but yeah, I'm a big fan of this because like the extra net damage can add up. Maybe all of a sudden your opponent thought they were safe from Blood in the Water, and an extra damage from Bladderwort uh, can make that a lot different. Or maybe you even have like a piece of ice in front of this that's not like end the runny, but like disruptive. Maybe we'll see ahead here.
Yeah, and that card definitely reminds me of Bioethics, which was a card that just rotated.
Yeah,
But it was another 1 cost res asset that did 1 net damage at the start of your turn. But that one had the stipulation of you had to have no ice in front of it. So
oh
this
god,
being a version of that you can defend is pretty interesting.
I still remember in playtesting when that dealt too.
Yeah. Yep.
uh, an eternal res scorched earth. That's weird.
Mhm.
All right. Anyway, Moonpool. This is a card we were kind of hinting about. 3 cost asset. That's actually pretty hefty for a non econ thing. Remove this
Yeah.
asset from the game. Trash up to 2 cards from HQ. Reveal up to 2 face down cards in archives and shuffle them in R&D. For each agenda revealed this way, advance an installed card.
Hmm.
Now, then we have like a merfolk.
Yeah. Yeah. The art is very interesting, very evocative. The effect on this card, it kind of feels split between like a Spin Doctor, Jackson Howard type effect of like trying to remove agendas from HQ or archives, put them back into R&D.
Mm-hmm.
But it also has this kind of additional function as like I guess a fast advance sort of
This
mechanic.
can so if you install, let's just say Regenesis, and you go Regenesis 1, Moonpool 2, Advance 3, you can fire Moonpool, discard 2 agendas, shuffle them back, and then do advance on Regenesis. Score it. Obviously,
Yeah,
that instance with Regenesis is bad because you've
you don't get to use the
get
effect on.
the effect. But like
Yeah,
this card alone does let you, if you're flooded, score a 3/2 from hand, which
yeah.
there is, you know, there's a 3/2 I can think of that, there's like they're like that's good on its own. But the trick with this card is that it does like a bunch of different bits. Obviously it has that sort of Jackson Howard bit, really expensive for that.
I
Uh,
mean, you say it's expensive. If you are using it to fast advance, which does require you to
yes,
have two
that
agendas in hand that you're not
it's a
currently scoring. So basically, you need to have three agendas. It is cheaper than saying like
biotic.
yeah, exactly, and then advancing twice, which is
But
6 credits.
if compared to like Spin Doctor, if that's what you're trying to do with it, you're paying
Yes.
a lot extra.
So it feels kind of like stuck between two modes, and it's not really sure what it's doing.
And of
But
course, it gains a third mode with Regenesis.
yeah, it's very easy way to trigger that agenda.
You can end of the turn.
Yeah, basically you just have to have Regenesis installed already, and then end of the runner's turn, fire Moonpool, and you don't even need to really get advancements from it. You just ensure that you have a Obokata or any agenda that you're trying to score in your archives face down, and then score the 3-1.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. It seems like it probably is going to be used as a combo card. I think that's my fear for it.
Yeah, the thing I think is that the Regenesis plus Moonpool setup is a little too. You have to set 2 cards and then hope neither of them are run,
Yeah,
and
it's true.
that's asking a lot.
Yep.
Um,
But maybe it's just a way for like a trap style deck to have threats,
yeah,
and
to be able to
I think
score when they
yeah.
sure.
Um, so I don't know. There's definitely some potential there. It's a very wordy card, and it's not intuitive. I guess kind of like what the effect is and how it relates to Merfolk. Um,
Yeah. All right. Next up, Anemone.
Anemone.
When you res this ice during a run, trash a card from HQ to do 2 net damage.
It has
Uh,
one sub, do one net damage. Very kind of underwhelming subroutine.
Underwhelming
Um,
sub, nice trap as it were.
yep. Yep, yeah, the when res effect can't be avoided by the runner, so it's kind of a
Yeah.
guaranteed hit. Um, yeah, so this was one of the cards that was part of the booster pack that they released, one of each faction.
Yep.
Um, so we've had this one for a while. It's been playable for a while. Um, I guess when I look at this card, I see a snare that leaves a cheap ice when it
Yeah,
fires.
you're paying 3 to fire 2/3 of a snare
Yep.
without the tag, I suppose.
And then you get to keep a 2 strength 1 sub ice,
Right, which
which
depending on what, like, depending on what opponent you're playing against, could be fine, or that could be like Bugalter exists and they break it for 0.
I mean, I don't know if there's really any Sentry breakers that have a hard time with this ice, like
MK.
MK.
If
Yeah,
somebody's using a conspiracy breaker on this, they feel bad.
true.
Everything else they don't. But if you are on a deck, but like now that Max isn't around, we're probably not going to see somebody who is just conspiracy breakers.
Yeah.
Like that used to be Max's thing because it meant that Max never had to draw any of.
Yep.
You know,
Because you just drew them by trashing them.
But
Yeah.
but anyway, but yeah. So I like this. Also, yeah, Massazal actually brings up a real good point. One of the more interesting cards if we have the res derez bit.
True.
You're not going for kill as much with that, but if you're doing that with the HB stuff, that's certainly annoying as hell to have that as a continuous thing.
Yeah, I've seen some like combo-ish sort of effects with this. Because if you can res 2, that's 2 net damage. Or sorry, two each. It's 4 net damage. So like in theory you could just kill with that ice if you can res like 3 in a row right away.
Yeah,
I think there's some effect to do that, but
yeah, so I'm excited. I'm interested in this as especially in like a P style deck because this is like a snare on the board.
yep. The res effects, I mean, while it's a cost, you have to trash a card from HQ. It is one more way to get cards into your archives during the runner's turn, which maybe could let you get some combo points with Regenesis, which is cool.
Also, do we still have faction Jinteki ident all? When your discard phase ends, if there's a face down card in archives, gain 1. Yeah.
Yep. But that's at the end of your turn.
Right, but this does let you put a card there, like without
usually during the runner's turn. I
Yeah.
mean, it is one more way to discard cards, which
Yeah. All right. Let me pull back up the.
which is fine. I don't know. It seems like an interesting bit of teeth for Jinteki.
Yeah, especially after losing Kakugo.
Yeah, it's not as potent as Snare, but I think it is equally difficult to avoid. So I think it will probably see play.
A card that interests me much less.
Mhm.
Here's
Yeah,
Bathonimus.
Bathonimus. Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Oh, yeah. This ice gets +3 strength while on archives. It's Neural Katana.
Yep, it's a 3 as a 3/4. It's kind of
It's a little bit more.
it's better, but it's still not really exciting.
But like you put this on anything but archives.
I mean, I honestly, I think the way to think about this card is that it is Neural Katana, but it costs 1 less.
Yeah,
And I think that makes it more playable than Neural Katana was, especially early game.
certainly, like it puts it in the spot that's closer to a Cortex lock back when that card
Right.
was
Yep.
the absolute annoying piece of ice. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard to like justify unless like you're looking to have like just really low end ice that's like designed to be like I'm here to get you on turns 1 and 2 when you don't have anything to break.
Yeah, I mean, I've certainly played Jinteki decks where like you just want some cheap ice that the runner doesn't want to hit.
Yep.
And this might fill that role.
All right. Speaking of core set cards.
Yeah, so we got a third piece of ice.
Yeah.
Evic.
Evic here.
Evic. I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
The res cost of this ice is lowered for each res code gate, which is nice because it's a barrier. And the idea there being, it's not asking you to go heavy in on code gates. It's just saying like you get a couple bonus bits if you're playing spread. Usually you want to have, in a general sense, you want to have all 3 types of ice around to force your opponent to grab all 3 of their breakers.
Yep.
Sometimes that can be in the form of like really small gear check, air quotes ice, but sometimes it can be bigger, like this. And this is wall of
Basically, wall
thorns.
of thorns.
I think it's even the same strength, right? Like,
Yeah, I think it was 5. I think it was 8-5.
yeah.
Yep.
So this is wall of thorns, but better, which that's
Yeah,
good.
that is good.
I'm mentally trying to think of what I want the cost of wall of thorns to be, and I think it's like 6, 5.
I mean, yeah, and I mean 6 is super easy to get with this. You just have to have a code gate res.
Yeah, because the idea is that like when I think of 5 cost and the run, I think of like when 5 strength and the run. That's probably gonna be like 5 cost. Firewall, I think was that.
Yeah.
Add 2 net damage in front of it. It makes it a lot more powerful because they have to break through. So yeah, especially if you actually are pretty hefty on code gates, and this becomes like 5 or 4, then that can become a nice.
And Jinteki actually does have a decent selection of efficient code gates. So I could actually see this getting played.
Yeah, nice to see.
Maybe not heavily, but maybe just a couple here and there.
You know, we got another take on core set ice, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of a take on an existing card, we got Mitosis. It's kind of funny that almost half of Jinteki here actually is that. Mitosis. As it is cost to play this operation, spend, click. Install up to 2 cards from HQ, creating a new remote server each time. Double advance each card. You cannot score or res either of those cards this turn.
Yeah.
So
very similar mechanically to a card called Mushin no Shin, which is probably one of my favorite cards ever printed.
Yeah, Mushin. You install a card just out in a nude server, triple advance it, and say, "Come on in."
Yep. Yeah, it has to be a new server, so you can't like put it in your already built up res dice server. So yeah, it's kind of making a wager with the runner. Do you dare to run my card, you puny runner?
Yeah, I like this.
Yeah, very cool.
I like it as it's one of those things that like Jinteki is always looking for cards to make the deck that's just like what I just double advance every card forever, and you have to call my bluff. And this is a card that enables that in a fun way.
Yep.
I don't think this is a competitive plan in a number of ways, but I do think it's very exciting.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, it's a little bit awkward because you really want to have 2 cards to use it on. If you just do one, you feel like a chump because you could have just installed advance and saved the card. You do save a click doing this, but
yeah.
Yeah, it really depends on what kind of interesting effects you can make the runner walk into and regret walking into, specifically.
All right, and then on the last card, again another extant card getting a rework. Ma virus, which we got big one of those Darwin. No.
Yeah, except for he's crying, I guess, or something.
Well,
I'm not sure.
he's breaking up, like behind Darwin.
Oh yeah, he is like
he's
falling apart.
digitally falling apart.
Oh man.
While the runner is accessing R&D, they have to reveal this card when accessed. When the runner accesses this upgrade, you may purge virus counters. If this upgrade is rezzed, do 1 net damage.
Yep.
And then
that's the only difference.
Trash
really.
this. Purge virus counters as 0 to trash instead of 1.
Yep. True.
So this is Cyberdex. Virus Suite rotated literally with this set existing. You might notice the text of this card is the same. It's the same. It's the same card. It's the same. It just has
same card.
It just has 1 net damage on it.
It's a different color now. It does a damage.
And it costs 1.
Lost a trash cost. Gained 1 influence. Yeah.
So,
it's fine. I don't know. It looks like it's just fulfilling that role.
Yeah. Which, to its credit, Jinteki actually gets. Oh no, sorry. This is weird, but HB gets -1 card in this.
Oh, they do, don't they?
9, 9, 9, 8. So,
Huh.
yeah.
So I guess maybe this is the extra card for Jiteki. Like, not really something they wanted, but they had to
It's
put it somewhere.
yeah, it's 1 influence, so anybody can play this. It's an antivirus card, so if your opponent's playing the whale, I'm sorry, the turtle, they're not playing
Yeah.
Darwin. Nobody's playing Darwin.
Jinteki does have like a antivirus sub theme and a couple of cards, but it's not very compelling.
No, I think
So
it's just this card needs to go somewhere.
yeah,
So anyway, Jiteki is whole. As they said this was designed with P in mind, and you can see it in Blood in the
yep,
Water and Bladderwort and Anemone.
very clear. Yeah,
Being things that are much more to having teeth in a deck like that. Yeah, I'm also real excited to see. Is Moonpool something that can do some wild stuff, or is it just smoke and mirrors? So.
Mhm.
And then Blood in the Water, I think, is really cool. So
Yeah, it's probably the coolest card of these, I think. Yeah, I'm very excited to play some PE here coming up soon.
yep. All right, so these first two didn't have new idents. I'm guessing we're getting those in the back half.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm certain that we're going to.
but these next two do. One of them is key. The other one not as much. But here's
I think both are super cool.
well, I mean, like the Wayland one. Every card in Wayland is built around it, whereas this one, like, you can still play the cards in other decks.
True.
But Prodavost Consulting.
Yeah, Pravdavost.
4515, it's basic. The first time each turn the runner makes a successful run, you may place an advancement counter on an installed card you can advance.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's a super cool effect.
Now, successful run happens before access, so you can do my favorite maneuver, which is when they go, run a successful, and you advance the card they're running at.
Yep,
And they
the
go,
card they're about to access,
and
and,
like,
you're like, "Would you like to access?"
and then you go, oh no.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
it is the
it's
first
pretty cool.
time. Obviously, playing this card, you want a number of cards that are advanceable.
Yep. Yeah, you can only put counters on cards that already are advanceable, so you can't just like put them on anything. Yeah, it's free value for the runner doing what the runner's gonna do, which is pretty good.
Yeah, as long as you build with it in mind. So either having ice that can take advantage of it, which is kind of funny. That's Wayland's stock and trade.
Yeah. Yep.
Um,
Yep.
or
Though
having
NBN does get one in this set.
yes, we're gonna see. Or even if it's just advancing a card they're running at, or like advancing a card they weren't running at, and them going, "Oh shit, I made a mistake," that sort of thing.
Yep. This is an ident that kind of makes you reevaluate the value or cost of an advancement counter. Like you can afford to play cards that you would never spend a click and a credit to advance, but if you're gonna get it for free, I mean,
Yeah.
it kind of changes that that sort of value proposition.
Pravda translates to truthfulness and is probably directly related to the newspaper Pravda, which just means truth. And of course, this is obviously NBN changing, controlling the media style.
Yeah, making the news.
Yeah.
As it were.
Artificial crypto crash, which
yeah, this one's cool.
is that a
that's Fisk.
That's Fisk having a day.
Yep.
Crash, investors lose millions. When you score this agenda, the runner loses $7. The line goes up until we don't need it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So this one's actually really interesting to me because it's an agenda that recreates the window to score in a way.
Yeah. This is a card that, like, at first glance is kind of unassuming, but I think is incredibly powerful.
Like if the opponent doesn't have the money to lose, they're probably in either a strange way or a bad way.
Mm-hmm. I mean, 7 credits is a big swing. Like we've already seen Off-World Office, we mentioned earlier, is a 4-2 that just gains the Corp 7 credits.
Yeah, and
But being able to just remove 7 credits from the runner, I think is a bit more interesting because you can really kind of put them in a hole where they really don't have options and can't afford to make runs, and
yeah,
gives you a big window to make more scores.
aren't all crypto crashes artificial? I mean, but I repeat thyself, I guess. True. Uh, I enjoy the art on this, mostly because I always like when they do use their recurring cast.
Yeah,
You know,
it definitely just shows like Fisk is just out there in the world having a bad day, and maybe we'll see him on some other card in the future.
yeah.
That's pretty
So
cool.
so yeah, this one interests me specifically for the point of if you score this, your next action may just be immediately go to another agenda score because your opponent's in the hole and
Yep.
they're not going to be able to disrupt you. They just if they lose $7 of their $11 economy, they need to spend a little bit of time rebuilding that. And maybe it's just yeah, no apes for Fisk. Uh, the line goes down. Yep, there's person over here is just like, oh fuck, God,
my Dogecoin, no.
why why did I why did I invest in Fisk coin? Why did I think that those are gonna anyway? Next up, talk about another card that's very similar to a core set card, but has a pretty heavy meaningful difference. Check his Scion. 0/0. You can advance this asset. When the runner accesses this asset while it's installed, give them 1 tag +1 for each advancement counter. Now, the card this is similar to is a card that nobody in the history of the game has ever played.
I thought you were gonna go to Ghost Branch.
That's
That's the one you're
yeah, I
looking for.
yeah, I literally couldn't remember the name of it
Okay.
because like
Yeah,
literally
definitely not something that saw a lot of play.
outside of like core set alone, you didn't play this card.
Yep.
And so this is literally
Just a +1.
this is a +1. This is a better. This is Ghost Branch +1, which
Yep.
completely changes the nature of the card.
Yeah, you can just throw this out there and let the runner smack into it and have to pull a tag off. That's pretty good value.
Yeah. Well, also they might run into it, and all of a sudden an
Yeah,
advancement counter
you
appears.
throw a
on
counter
it,
on it. Yeah.
and now they have
Oh.
to clear 2 tags.
Mm-hmm.
And this can just sit there as like a snare or something like that. You do that sometimes where you just set a card down and
Yeah.
but,
Maybe it's the fact that this guy in this art looks just like the guy to his right. But the flavor is not as good as Ghost Branch, I think. With Ghost Branch, it's like you're the runner. You pull up to some corpo building and it's like completely empty. You're
yeah,
like,
right. You're
what's
like,
going on here? Like
wait,
this is wrong.
shit.
But that's just some dude in a suit. I don't know.
Here's original Ghost Branch, which looks like this.
Yep. Just like, okay, this is wrong.
Empty room. We're on the moon.
Yep.
But yeah. So I think this gets a lot better when it's especially because this could like one of the problems with Ghost Branch is that going install advanced Ghost Branch, like that wasn't like tooth enough, right? Like,
Yeah, even if the runner just face plants into it and pulls the tags off, you're like
okay,
basically even as far as tempo. Like
because
you're probably still down even, I think.
because you're down your full turn -$2. They're down 3 clicks and $4, which they can probably make up a bit on their next final click. So like it trades really poorly. Whereas this, if you just set it, you can get a tag on them. You get nothing, something for nothing.
And then they spend $2 and half their turn checking this and then pulling that tag off, which that's not a bad trade.
So I like that. That's if we're gonna take an unplayable card and push it, let's go for that. See how far we have to push it to make it playable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next up, speaking of tags and advancements, themes. Drago Ivanov.
Yeah. This one, I believe it's pronounced Drago.
I think
Drago.
I think it is Ivan Drago. He's the dude from Rocky 4.
Oh, nice.
That's just the dude from Rocky 4. Like,
Awesome.
I will crush you.
Yep.
Or sorry,
Uh,
I must break you. Yeah. You can
uh,
advance this asset. 2 has advancement counters. Give the runner a tag. Use this ability only during your turn.
yep.
This one is really like like a solid way to just go, I am going to tag you.
I mean, this is kind of like the inverse of check a scion, right? Like this is if you don't check this, you're gonna get tagged.
Yeah.
Um,
Notable does not trash for that tag.
yep, doesn't try doesn't even cost a click to fire. You can literally unload this one after one, as many tags as you have counters on here.
Yeah. And
Um,
now
and then
obviously
follow it up with a boom.
we don't live in a scorched earth world, so you would need 2 for boom.
Hmm.
And we don't live in a closed accounts world, so you're not getting that free. Tag punishment has finally gotten to a place where it's not like you are tagged, the game immediately ends on the spot.
Yep.
So, but that what it means is we can have things like this that are ways to ensure a tag hits, and then play with that. So obviously, this is very powerful if you have something you're looking to, punish the opponent with. But what that is,
What's the new closed accounts called?
it's like lose 4 for every
It's drain for market forces. Is that what it is? Yeah, yeah, market forces. I actually think that card has some legs with market
lose
forces because
3,
you can kind of tailor the number of tags they have. You give them to the number of credits they have, and you can just drain all of their
and then
money.
you take the money. That's what makes
Yeah,
this. And then of course you also have is it reversed? Yeah, reversed
reverse
accounts,
accounts is legal. Yep.
which is another card that like if we're talking about like cards you can
Oh.
ahem.
Hmm.
If we're talking about cards that you can advance with this
With Providence.
yeah, with this reversed accounts ain't a bad one.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, so all right. Um
But yeah, I guess as far as Drago goes, I definitely see it as kind of more of a combo card, probably.
right, you need to have obviously you need to be playing a reason to tag your opponent to do
Mhm.
this, and a lot of the best ones are already kind of blasted out. So you're looking to do like a boom kill maybe,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yep.
So all right, another advancement card here.
Yeah. This one's really cool.
This one's funny. Ubiquitous Vig.
Yep. 1/4 asset advertisement. You can advance this asset. When your turn begins, you gain 1 credit for each hosted advancement counter.
Mm-hmm. So
Um, something that
advancing.
it kind of like the was it the refugee campaign we saw earlier, but you can just make it bigger, which is pretty cool.
But
You do have to invest at least 1 to get anything from this, which
that's what makes this a lot harder to work with. You need to have like because like this is something okay. This one's interesting because when we think of mitosis, when we talk about to talk about Genteki trap dot deck,
hmm
you need to have 3 different traps, right? You need to have like if I run this, I lose.
hmm
If I don't run this, I lose. And if like you basically want to have the one that's like if I ignore this completely, there's like bad times that isn't an agenda,
right.
like because like those are really high risk. And one like Ronin used to be the one in
hmm
Jinteki. If you didn't run it and they double advance, that could be the end of the game. But
Yeah.
if you go install advance Vig, the hope is that now all of a sudden you have this income. The problem is that install advance is a really really expensive action.
hmm
You don't want to power this through the advancement action. You probably want to be powering this through.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're getting free counters on it, I think it's incredible value. Um, I think the runner is probably salivating to trash it anytime it has 2 or more counters on it.
Yeah,
Especially if it has more than 2.
Well, yeah, and like if you put them
But
there,
if you can actually defend this, and I guess in this way it kind of compares poorly to Daily Quest, but if you can defend it, you could get, crazy amounts of money from it.
the existence of Daily Quest is the reason I'm not so huge on this one
Hmm.
because I feel like they're similar cards, and
Yeah, definitely.
though Daily Quest has a higher risk,
Yep, there's a
but
small drawback to it, but the fact that it comes online right away is huge.
yeah. So,
Um,
but it is nice to see if we're going to be doing stuff with advancing cards. We want to have things like this. I'm not necessarily certain if this is the card I want to be running for this spot,
mhm,
or if I'm just going to run econ from either neutral or pulled in with influence. Who can
mhm.
say? But also, obviously, if you're playing Providost, like, yeah. All
Yep.
right, next up,
Yeah.
Mesnich Vesto?
Mesnichestvo, I believe.
Metchesnest.
Yeah, it's kind of a mouthful. Mesnichestvo.
Nichestvo. There we go. All right. You can
This
advance
is a
this.
cool ice.
Now, this is, I like this ice because it, again, talk about core set ice.
Mm-hmm.
You can advance this ice. When the runner encounters this ice, you may remove the hosted advancement counter. If you do, the runner loses 3. The runner loses 3. And the run.
Yep.
So there was a piece of ice that saw play for an
Still sees
eternity,
play,
still sees
I
play,
believe.
literally.
Pretty sure
Literally.
it still sees play.
I'm pretty sure I've seen Toll Booth still in lists.
Yep.
But Toll Booth. Yeah, Toll
Kind of the
Booth.
gold standard of big stopping code
Yeah,
gates.
because the big thing about Toll Booth is even if they have a way to get past the end of the run, which is 5 strength, they still have to pay 3.
Yeah.
Um, Here we
And
are.
this card has a similar kind of built-in tax to it.
Not only does it have the
Um,
built-in tax, it has the secondary.
yep, it also has secondary tax, so if you face plant into it, you might be real sad if you can't break it.
Yeah.
Um, the I guess trigger text is actually slightly better than Toll Booth because if they have less than 3 credits, they'll still lose them, which can be very relevant
If
because
able.
Toll Booth says, yeah, they must pay 3 if able, which if you have
Well,
2
it's
credits, you're
different
not
between
able to.
lose 3 and pay 3.
Yep.
So, yeah, this one really interests me, especially for being as cheap as it is comparatively. We're talking 5 versus Toll Booth.
Yep.
So,
And you may just get to advance it for free with your identity, which super value.
mm-hmm. Or perhaps with our next card,
Yeah.
um, Vasilisa.
Yep.
Vasilisa?
I'll take your word for it. I'm not sure.
Vasil-
Vasilisa.
Vasilisa. Anyway,
Uh,
when the runner encounters this ice, pay 1, advance a thing. And then also 2 costs. You're not really.
yeah. So this is actually kind of like a functional reprint of a
Yes.
card called Matrix Analyzer from
Yep.
Core Set.
Again, we would. It's interesting to see taking extant cards.
Mm-hmm.
This is literally.
Which it's almost the same except for the subroutine doesn't have a trace, which frankly makes the card a lot more
Makes
compelling,
it
I think.
way better because now if they don't break it, they take the.
Yeah, they just take a tag. Still cheap to res. You still got to pay 1 to advance, but it's fair. You're still saving the click on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty solid card. It's just a 2 cost, 2 strength sentry that gives a tag and it can let you advance stuff.
It's a lot more interesting than Matrix Analyzer because it removed that um the trace on there, which makes
Hmm.
this hit rather than just miss. So
Yeah.
I should probably have made them bigger, huh?
Oh yeah.
I've been able to do
Totally,
this the whole time and I forgot to do it.
totally forgot about that.
All right. Next up, backroom machinations.
Yeah.
As an initial cost to play this, remove a tag, add this operation to your score here. It's an agenda point worth 1.
Does it have a trash cost? I don't think it does.
Nope. So this one, like, is weird because like is it a bit of a weird spot because you have to be in a tagging deck that's winning through points, which is real,
Hmm.
but you have to specifically be not the boom tag deck. This is
Yeah,
something you're
I
doing.
I really think this is the replacement for exchange of information, which we mentioned earlier.
Quantum predictive models still exist, right?
Yep. I I don't know why your search is doing that.
Keeps
That's
adding
weird.
words.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, but yeah, this is still good.
Yep. But yeah, pull up exchange of information because I believe that's what this is meant to replace more.
Yeah,
Which is like you're saying, it's a deck that wants to tag and win by scoring agendas.
but this one
Um,
was bullshit
but
instead
this
of.
card, unlike Backroom Machinations, is like a 5-point swing
I,
for one card,
I steal
which is
GFI.
absurd.
I give you 15
15
minutes.
minutes, and then I take it back,
Take 15
and you
minutes
go cry.
back, and
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Just absurd value.
so yeah,
Um,
if you are a deck that's doing tagging, that's trying to win through points, this is a place to be. I'm a big fan of hiding points,
mhm.
having ways of scoring that aren't scoring. So this is an interesting card to me.
Oh, I just noticed. Is that Gabe and Nisei on that card? It looks
that's
like Gabe on the
that's
right.
God. That yeah, I mean Cyber Arm, right? Like,
Yeah, but I don't know who's he's sitting next to.
is that just Andromeda?
I don't think so.
I was thinking, I was thinking from like the might be doing the Sure Gamble.
She looks like she's wearing a kimono,
That's
but I
definitely
don't know.
Gabe.
Yeah,
I think if I remember right with Gabe.
yeah, that's definitely Gabe.
Yeah, just a more incognito with the eye.
Yep.
It's funny if I remember right on one of the Gabes, the arms on the wrong side, or like there's an art
Oh,
somewhere where
really?
we. I don't think it's on Gabe, but it's on a card that Gabe's on where like we flip
Oh,
the art got reversed.
um, I'm pretty sure the newest Gabe, and maybe that is that one, but he's like getting older. I can't remember which one that was.
Just add the word
Professional
core.
core. Huh. I don't know why NetRDB is just giving you all the extra stuff.
Gabe, Gabe, please. Oh, this is
I think
system
that
core.
might be the
Oh,
newest
this is
one.
system core. Okay, because this is
Yeah, there's the first one. Yep.
yeah. So we had older. That is older Gabe.
Yep.
So
Okay. Okay.
yeah. So I'm always interested in having points hidden in your, you know,
Yeah, this is a point the runner cannot steal and doesn't count towards your agenda point limit. So you're kind of playing over your limit in a sense. But it's always in your favor. It does remove a tag as a cost, which
mm,
makes this something you probably want to save until later in the game. You probably have better things that you want to do with that tag if you can play operations while the runner is tagged.
yep.
Um, I don't know. I mean, it certainly is a point that you can score with one click, which is pretty good, but it's not that impressive.
Right. That's the like we've been
It
playing with exchange, which is
Yeah, like it doesn't make me want to build a tagging deck.
no.
Like I might play a copy of this in a tagging deck, but eh.
All right.
And I think this is the last one for MBN.
Vladisirsk grid.
Vladisibirsk City
Vladisir
Grid.
city grid. You can advance this upgrade. 2 advancement counters. Place 2 advancement counters on another card in the root of the server that you can advance.
Use it only once per turn.
This card is wild.
Yeah, really, 2 advancements without spending a click is huge.
When I talk about that third category of card, that's like the install advance, that like if you don't run on, you get hyper punished.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, it's this card.
Yep.
Um,
So yeah, say you install this, advance it twice, you don't even have to res it until you want to use it. And then you want to score a 4-2 from hand, install advance, pay through to res this, move them over. You just scored a 4-2 from hand for $5. That's a good deal.
or even I put this in a server because it's an upgrade. It's in the remote. The runner runs. They successfully run it. I put a counter on this. This now becomes a must trash
Yeah,
because even like one advancement counter
that is still a fast advance. You can
is
score a 3-2 from hand.
yes, I can still score a 3-2. So
Yep.
Yeah, this one is.
Yeah, this is a card that looks like it wants to fight Sansan City Grid, and it looks like it might win.
We'll see. Sansan has
Sansan is
taken
a hell of a card.
Sansan has taken all comers for a long time.
Yep.
We'll see how it works.
But this could be a contender.
Yeah. All right, that's NBN. So you can
That's
see a lot
NBN.
in this. Almost every card outside of Drago and Backrib, almost every card is involving the Crypto Crash, the the ident.
Yep.
But like we have a lot that we can pull in. Unlike when we were talking about Asa earlier, where it's like, oh, well, what are we pulling in for core damage? Not a lot. We still have like things we can pull in as far as advanceable cards
Yep.
from
Yeah,
outside.
from every faction, I think basically has some kind of advanceable cards. So
Yeah.
lots of interesting ways you can take this. I'll be very curious to see what people do with it.
Yep. All right.
I'm I love counters, especially with like physical Netrunner. So like I'm gonna be looking forward to stacking up 10 counters on my Vig and daring the runner to come steal it.
Yeah, at that point, your Vig becomes like.
Sand.
Do you remember? This was the stupidest era.
What was it called? Sandberg? No, you're thinking of IT department. That was another one.
So, do you remember playing against IT department?
Mhm.
So
You needed like advanced math to be able to figure out if you could break ice.
well, like the way, like what it meant is like the way it ended up going was that like, is this a new set? Is it a fan made set? Yes and yes, but like Nisei is the official where Netrunner is run these days.
Yep.
So back in 2018, 18.
I think so, yeah.
Back in 2018, Fantasy Flight just either let or the license reverted back to Wizards, and the game basically died on the spot, which sucked because the game was going quite well. The game had a pretty damn large following, and the players decided, nah. So they have been for the last 4 years printing their own sets. We've got all of Downfall. We've got all of Uprising.
Got a new core set.
New core set. And this is the release they released last week. You can buy it, and you can buy it in print. There are online events being run. There's a bunch of players playing on this client right now.
Yep. There's going to be a lot of in-person events coming up as well. We could probably touch on that at the end as well.
Yeah. Oh, and we also have Continentals.
Mm-hmm.
Continentals is end of the month.
Yep.
So
and those will be online, I believe.
No.
Uh-oh. Is that not going to work?
No, they're on the 27th.
What's the 27th?
The day that we set up last for Twilight Imperium.
Oh, well, you are able to play in any continental event.
Okay.
You don't have to play in the one that you live in. So.
All right. Well, we'll see how.
But you're
goes.
right. That could be one small problem.
Anyway, that's not a problem for other people.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is a new set made by Project Nisei, the Nisei group that has been releasing cards for the last 3 years. And to me, it's great that of all the games, Netrunner, the game about the common folk hacking the megacorp and fighting,
hackers sticking it to the man and fighting back and building our own damn systems, and it's so fitting. Like this literally has become like this sort of like hacked game almost. Like we just took over the source code and kept making it, and that's so cool.
Yeah. So looking at our final one.
Yeah.
So it says Ob, but over here, Op.
It says Op, but I'm not gonna say Op.
Op. So this is Op. Super heavy logistics.
Yep.
Extract, export, Excel.
There's a lot of text.
I guess they are extracting oil into a spreadsheet.
Cannot export oil to
CSV. Hey, I mean, look. we all know that there are many companies in the year 2233 that still run on Dell Optiplex
Oh yeah, black
980s
boxes.
that have a
Yep.
floppy drive and a this
Uh,
is definitely a Windows this is a Windows 95 machine
oh yeah.
that is necessary for some legacy code.
It was the backup to the backup to the backup.
Yeah, if it dies, the entire company goes down for 6 months, and we are just screwed. Um,
Mm.
anyway, getting back to Ope. So, this identity, every single card in the entirety of this expansion, with like maybe one exception, is built for this ident. So please keep it in mind. 4515. Whenever you trash a resed card, except during installation, you may search R&D for a card with a printed res cost exactly one less than the trash card's printed res cost. Install and res the card you found, ignoring credit costs. Use this ability once per turn. So,
And then that flavor text is super good too.
take all that is offered and more. This is this is pod going down. You don't go up, you go down on this. So
Yep.
if you sack a 5-drop, you get us 4.
Yep.
So we're but that said, we're still going to be able to talk about some super powerful plays that this has access to.
Hmm.
There's one card I think that's going to hold together this deck like super glue. But yes, it is a tutor. It tutors things for free, puts them in
Yeah,
play,
like
reses them.
for anyone reading this for the first time, probably the biggest thing that you have to first understand is that it doesn't trigger when you trash cards during installation, and generally that is when Corps will be doing their trashing.
Yeah.
Um, it's actually quite uncommon for trashing to happen outside of that,
Unless we were to play every single card in this pack.
unless there are cards specifically that allow you to do that,
Such as oh god, is this
that's the full art. Yeah, it looks so much better as the normal size. Because like so this was the last of the 7 of the booster pack cards.
yeah.
So we've seen this for I think over a month now.
And this one like even
Those were all full art versions of these cards, but they were like really hyper zoomed in versions.
yes.
So on that version of this card, you couldn't really see the full scene of what's going on, and I really like that you get to see kind of the full context here. It looks much more um there's much more of like a sort of a comparison between like the sort of the foreground and the
The back.
background and like the destruction and all that.
Yeah.
It's really great.
Don't worry, directors. Security is always willing to send agents to assist with radical asset reassignment.
Yep.
And then we are sinking some boat out here. As an additional cost to score this agenda, trash one of your other installed cards. Good note here. Doesn't say res, so if you just want to trash any old piece of crap, go for it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It's
when you
fairly...
score this 3-2, this is a
Yep.
3-2, and it's not even limited. This is the replacement for because we lose Project Atlas, right?
No, Atlas is still legal.
Oh shit, they have two. They have
Yes.
oh
Technically 3 because one is a one
one
off.
is a one-off. So that's sorry, I thought Atlas. No, you're right. It's in update.
It's in the
Damn.
last update. Yep.
But yeah, anyway, when you score this, do to me damage. So
Yeah. So not just a 3/2, but a 3/2 with like a very powerful effect. Like,
yeah, and obviously, if you have some sort of resed card to trash, this could be a trigger for Ope and
yep. You can go
uh,
tutor a card,
tutor a
install it, and res
card.
it for free. Yeah, pretty nifty. I definitely could see this card more than I think the other ones get played outside of Ob. Um,
Yeah,
Especially since if you are trying to use the meat damage, you're probably not as concerned about trashing your cards.
and also even if you're playing like a fast advanced deck, like you just want as many 3/2s as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously,
Absolutely.
you can't tighten chain, but you haven't been able to do that for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, all right. Next up, Siatogor. I'm gonna find the
Yeah, that one's hard to suss out.
Sevtagor. Svetagor.
Svitagor.
Svitagor. Sfitagor Excavator. Somebody bought out Aesop. When your turn begins, you may trash one of your installed cards. If you do, gain 3.
Yeah, Aesop is such a beloved card. I'm so happy seeing this on Corp side finally.
This is
Um,
super cool because, again, does not say resed.
yep.
So you can set a piece of ice and then let it go.
And it's only one influence, so you could easily play this out of action.
And of course, it is a way to beginning of turn.
Yep.
Trigger super heavy logistics. Um, you definitely have to work with this, play with this, build with this. This could be the end of a chain. You know, you might sack a 1 to go grab the 0.
Mm-hmm.
You can grab this if you sack a 1, because you go 1 less. So
Yeah.
it's so one of the things that sucks. Again, I mentioned this card. This card is glue, right? If it's assembly lines.
Yeah.
This card is rotating. This card is glue. And sadly, if this was playable in Super Heavy Logistics, this would be a tutor any 0 for the
Mhm.
install, and you gain money on it. Anyway, but no, I still like this. I think you're likely going to be wanting to build around Super Heavy Logistics, or be playing a deck that's like has a lot of card draw and wants to be cycling cards to money to board to cards to money to really quickly move through and build up to some sort of maneuver.
Mhm.
You know, you need to have some end game involved, but maybe that's a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
and I think just like comparing Corp to Runner, I feel like it's easier for the Runner to sack cards to Aesops and get value from it versus as Corp. I
Yeah.
think probably just because you have less clicks, you have less excess cards to sack. Um, so a little bit trickier, but I still think quite strong.
And also, if it is sacking like a face up ice that grabs a 3 cost, a 3 drop or whatever.
Yep.
All right.
This is a cool piece of ice.
Envelopment, to me, it is. This is a card that, if you play it outside of this identity, it's one of the worst cards in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see why in a bit. It was quite funny. I when I was finding some spoilers, I had to listen to a couple podcasts, and this is one I remember on because somebody, the podcast this was on, one of the first cards they brought up, they were like, "This sort of reminds me of Swarm," and I thought to myself, yes, Swarm, notoriously one of the worst cards in all
Yeah.
of the game. Anyway,
It really was.
so, envelopment. When you res this ice, place 4 counters on it. When your turn begins, remove a counter. This ice gains end the run before it's printed subroutine for each hosted power counter. Trash
And it
this ice.
also has a sub, trash this ice.
So,
Yeah.
if you are playing this outside of Ob, this is a piece of ice. You pay 5 to res. The runner pays like 5 or 6, or 4 if they're playing paperclip, to break the end of the runs, and then trashes it and goes, moving on. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're playing super heavy logistics, this ice becomes way more of a problem. And it's now time.
Specifically because of its cost too.
Yeah, it's now time to introduce the card that just. This is the card that makes the deck. Hello, my
Truly.
name is Border Control. Border Control was already known as one of the strongest pieces of like ice for big decks in the game. It has a trash and the run. This here, if it's trashed, you can use your once per turn to grab a 4. Oh wow, it's Border Control. Let's set this up on the
Install it
server.
and res it.
Install it, res it. And then, like, if you have to use it on that turn, fine. If you have to use it on a later turn, you can pull a 3 out of your deck. So, yeah, envelopment is really cool. Okay, a note about installing ice. If the runner's making a run and you install ice, like, try to install ice on that server, they don't, like, go back to that ice. They continue where they are. So, like,
their position in that server is persistent.
You can't, like, force the runner to encounter a piece of ice by.
Yeah. So if envelopment is the second outermost piece of ice, when it gets trashed and you install border control, because the runner already passed envelopment, they are now approaching the innermost piece of ice and not encountering border control
Right.
that you just installed.
Yes. And yeah, if you need to say this is running out of counters and the runner isn't touching this because they don't want the trash the ice subroutine to go off, well, force it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Still, though, I mean, just the concept of this ice, like, okay, yeah, the last sub kind of neuters it, but 5 strength, 5 res, 5 subs. That's a very
could you
satisfyingly round piece of ice.
Massazaw asks, could you install a region upgrade to the server? Yes. So Super Heavy Logistics just says card and it just puts it anywhere. So if you want to install a 4-cost asset in a new server, you can do that. If you have a 4-cost grid you want to grab, if there's some specific card that you're looking for that, let's say you trash a 4-cost in the middle of a run, you want to go grab Chrysium. Maybe that's what you want to do. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so
Yeah, the only thing that you can't get is an agenda because it doesn't have a cost.
correct, they have advancements instead.
Yeah.
So yeah, this one's really nifty. The art on here is very like we're hanging out in Destiny or Destiny 2 at the Vex.
Yeah.
Or maybe like
very like control, I think.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah. The green makes it, Wayland, but if you change the color up, we can get more control, or we can we can move it to a couple different places with that. But yeah, so this card very cool with the ident. Maybe don't play it outside because you don't want your ice to just blow up for no reason.
Even if they do just bounce off of it when you res it, they just have to wait 4 turns and it kills itself. Like it's not likely to be good outside of Ob.
Okay. This is an ice. I kind of wanted it to be and maybe it will. I wanted this to be a cycle.
Yeah.
Because this is Wall of Static with an extra sub, and I kind of wanted to see what the extra sub would be in all four factions.
All 4 factions. Yeah. I mean, if that were the case, this is probably the most boring one of the cycle. Gain 2. Yeah, not very exciting.
Like, if you hit this, like, so this is Wall again. Talk about literal basic cards.
Yeah. Wall of Static.
Oh my god. So Wall of Static is the most core set of core set cards. 3/3 on the run.
Yep.
So when you're playing in faction, you get slightly better than that because this is an in faction card. So you gain $2. Sure. Maybe.
Yeah, seems very fair. Seems very. I don't know if I want to say boring, but just basic.
It's basic. If you want this to be your barrier gear check, fine.
Yeah, and gain 2 on a gear check is fine. That gives you a little small refund for what you're resed for, and it kind of reminds me of Caduceus, I guess, in some sense.
Yeah, this is the fact that this costs 1 if you pay it back. That's actually a running Wayland bit. If we take a look at I was talking about border control earlier. People don't play border control for its subs, but it has them. I swear to God. But border control also has gain 1 for each piece of ice protecting the server. It's made to have that refund, and that's a bit of a Wayland thing.
Yeah,
I really like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of Wayland ice has that gain a couple bucks.
Remember playing. It's an old ass piece of ice, but remember Caduceus?
Yeah,
that had like traces that gave you 3, and then.
Yep. And Archer and all kinds of Wayland ice has that.
All right, now if we want to talk about some wild ice, this is the one that scares me. The thought to see it on the other side of the table.
Yeah, this one's pretty cool.
All right, when you res this ice, you may trash one of your other installed cards if you do +5 strength for the remainder of the run. Trash 1 program. Trash 1 installed program. So, if you run into this and they go, okay, cool, trash, I don't give a shit. Maybe also trash anything.
Yep.
All of a sudden, this is 4 cost, 7 strength. A
Yeah,
lot of the
7
time,
strength is real.
a lot of the times when you're the runner, you're always doing mental math as to what's the worst case, right? What, the runner has 5 credits. What could they possibly res? And you have to mentally kind of keep a running tab on that. Well, they can't res Fairchild, so I don't have to think about that on this run. That's great. Wayland is a little, dicier because on 4 they have Archer. This actually goes above Archer in strength at less cost because Archer needs to forfeit an agenda. This does not. This just needs you to trash any card for it, and then it sticks around as a 2 sub century.
Yeah.
So yeah,
More of like a roto turret type ice at that point.
Yeah.
The face check's really what you're going for, and I think if you're playing this, you really are looking to kind of catch the runner off guard and really kind of send them back tempo wise.
Because there are some decks where trashing 2 installed programs might put them out of a breaker type.
Yep.
That might just be enough where now all of a sudden they have to play like, shit, I don't have a barrier breaker, I need Ngolo now. Like, usually there's some sort of way around it, but like in modern decks, but you might be able to catch somebody off guard enough.
Yeah, I mean, even now, like, I think Shaper's really the only faction that has effective recursion. Other factions can get it. Typically, they'll spend influence if they do.
So,
but even just because this is a century, so 2 subs, 7 strength. So even if you're playing Bugalter, which is arguably the most efficient century breaker there is in standard, this costs 8 to break both subs.
What recursion pieces are go along with this? Well, in faction, Wayland is not heavy on recursion. HB is the recursive piece.
Yeah,
this is also a good thing to eat because once it's done its trick, its unknown rototurret, you can just eat it and now get a 3, and maybe that's a asset that's more effective for a grid. Maybe it's you go grab Chrysium.
I guess one thing to note, you're probably not going to tutor for Stavka with Ob because you want the surprise factor.
Correct. But yeah, this is not an early game ice. Like, you're not resing this on turn 1 and 2 unless your opponent literally just like installed 2 breakers and ran. I don't know why they do that. But you want to, this is like a turn 4 or 5, like, and even later, like even on like some of the big runs that, late game, for 1 run, having a 7 strength sentry that just is the hyper killer, that could be the end of.
You could put 2 of these on a server and res them both on the same run and really push the runner.
And then go trash the first one with the second.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
All right. And then, so talking about cards that are not great outside of this identity, but very good in. This one's maybe fine, but like the numbers are funky outside. Anyway, Extract. 3 gain 6. You can trash an installed card to gain an additional 3.
Yep.
Now
it is a transaction, which is of note for Wayland.
So like this is 3 gain 9 if you're trashing, which is a lot. But to trash a card, you have to install the card, which is a click to have played it and a click to have drawn the card. The first, well, not always click to draw in Corp because you draw for turn. So, but now if you're using this to trash, a used Stavka, that's a completely different thing than just like I'm trashing a face down card to get $9. This is big money too.
Yep.
So,
and honestly, I wouldn't discount just the ability to gain 6 in 1 click. That's a lot of money.
That all of a sudden, like, you have, because there's
like that's levels of what was that one from I don't know what set it was from, but the one that gave you a bad pub when you played it, the 0 cost one.
Too big to fail.
Too big to fail. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, and worst case on this, it's like if you have to play it as easy mark, it's still easy mark, I guess.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You obviously want to, though, have it be your trigger for turn.
Yep. But
Um,
when you have to play it as easy mark, you're going to be happy that you have it.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a card that I think at first glance looks pretty unassuming, but this is like this is the gas, I think, for Op. This is what makes that deck sing.
yeah. All right, we got 2 more cards. The first of which has nothing to do with this ident. So,
Let's see. Oh yes.
first things first. I'm gonna go back to this band list, and we're gonna.
Oh yeah. Yep. One more relevant change.
There's a ban here. Explanation of changes. The ban of high-profile target opens up exploring interesting options around tags. It will make a lot more sense in the context of previews.
Yep. So that was banned before we knew why.
This was banned, and they basically said, "Trust us, we're banning this for a reason."
Yep.
This was the replacement for Scorched Earth, and I thought this was a really neat one, because it does 2 meat damage per tag. So the punishment is for being heavily tagged, not for being single tagged. Anyway, let's go back to Mutually Assured Destruction. Operation Triple. As an additional cost to play this operation, spend double click, so your whole turn. Trash any number of rezzed cards. Give the runner a tag for each card trashed this way.
Mm-hmm.
Just
yeah,
the entire board. Crunch. 22.
Yeah.
Here's 9 tags, or
yeah.
what?
This is a card that opens up like a whole new like dimension of windmill slams in Netrunner that we haven't seen before. I think that's super cool. Yeah, you can just sack your whole board. Just be like, you're tagged to infinity. Deal with it. Like,
Go.
awesome.
I'm holding boom.
Yep. Yeah. So it's a triple op. So you're, I guess at base
over.
you're spending your whole turn to play it, but you're probably looking to do this in some kind of combo where you can get extra clicks and play a second event on that turn or something like that. Or you could just do the gamble of, if I sack half my board, can I last a turn?
Because if
maybe not.
If I give them 6 tags, even if they clear 4, they'll have 2 left. Boom. Right.
It's enough for boom.
But yeah, so the obvious ban here is we ban high profile targets, so you can't just go, you have 1 turn, you have 1 days.
Yeah, or just a biotic labor into high profile, but just seal the game. So yeah, that's totally fine. So this was designed by the 2020 Asia Pacific champion Eric Kilback, aka Whiteblade Online, another pretty well known player. He's actually one of the co-hosts of that podcast you're talking about.
Okay.
Jones.
Rad.
So yeah, very very cool personality in the game. Very cool card design coming from him. Very new sort of direction for card design, which I think is very cool.
I love that he has no. This is a card that's never doing anything fair. True, but sometimes, you know what? I'm gonna blow up my entire board and just say, "Let's dance."
Time to push the button. Heck yeah.
So
yeah, very cool card.
It's a very very interesting piece of piece to play with. You never open the glass on the big red button. You just crush it.
Just smash it. Yep.
All right. Here we are.
Yeah.
Card 65. Almost done. We have Trust Operation. Play only if the runner's tagged. Trash one installed resource. That's not anything.
Yeah, you can already do that without a card.
Install and res 1 card from archives, ignoring all costs.
Yeah, that's the real text of this card.
Yeah. So
this could just install and res an archer for free, which is cool.
Yeah. This is some of that recursion. We
definitely kind of new for Wayland, but very powerful. A little bit of click compression as well. I was actually just listening to someone describe a combo situation involving mutually assured destruction, where they got a bunch of clicks, but the opponent had what's Citadel Sanctuary, the resource that can prevent meat damage. So they couldn't just boom them that turn, but they instead got an extra click, played mutually assured destruction, played this card to trash that resource, and then they use this install to get a Bass from archives to get them the extra click to play the boom. That's what it was, which is pretty sick.
Do you what from archives?
Bass Tree Boga. It's the fake labor.
Yeah. How do you spell that? Is that by number?
It'd be
No, actually,
SS. Yeah, there
oh,
you
it is
go.
just Baz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you using this to get the extra click to be able to also boom that turn was pretty
Incredible.
sick.
Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, but yeah, so definitely when I see this line here, install and res, ignoring all costs, that definitely is like combo potential. The trash one resource, that's more of like, again, you can do that if the runner's tagged at any point by paying 2 and a click.
Yep. Yeah, that's kind of the bonus
Can
effect to
you
this card.
can you play this if they have no resources?
Ooh, I
Do you need
guess
to
I don't know.
do you need to hit all targets in Netrunner? I actually forget it. I play too many card games, so it's hard for me to like
Yeah, because like
keep.
looking at it as like a magic card, I would say you could, but as a Netrunner card, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Also, yeah, in the context of super heavy logistics, you can
Yeah.
reset your chain by going and grabbing your 7 or whatever the top end is of your bit.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
so yeah. Again, Ope or is definitely
Wayland is
what
very ob. Yeah.
what we're looking at.
I do kind of wish they would have added like the ship subtype to that one. I think that would have been pretty cool, but they didn't. Like Corp ship or something. Um,
So many cranes around this thing.
we have had other offshore Wayland idents, but never a boat.
Yeah, the other offshore it was bad pub.
Grundle.
Grendel start with $10 in a bad pub.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, overall, very, very interesting new direction for Wayland. Definitely not something that I think FFG was ever really considering doing. Um, I do think this probably was inspired by the birthing pod magic card that you were mentioning earlier.
yeah,
Um,
pod is definitely like when I see this, I think of pod. Because pod goes up one,
yep.
which is almost like that's why pod's banned in modern. But um, every time you see a pod adjacent card, you think, oh, pod. And this asks the similar question. One of the things that pod has you do in Magic is that your deck has to contain a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6.
Yes.
Like you have that chain of cards that you're going into. In modern decks, it's a chain that ends in an infinite combo the turn you play the card. But in limited, it's more like you're looking for like these value cards that have come to play effects, leave play effects.
And just to cycle through as many as possible.
And to go up to bigger creatures that have bigger come to play effects, leave play effects.
So more than I think almost any other Corp ident, I think Abba's going to demand a lot more from deck builders in terms of just like designing the right number of cards at each cost to build a chain to go through.
Just like Prov Devast here is asking you to just include enough advancement cards to be like doing the thing, so you're always getting positive. Asa is saying play enough core damage to be able to trigger this. Play charge cards to trigger with, trigger this in Shaper. But yeah, you're right. This is asking you to like, all right, what are you playing on 5, 4, 3, 6? Like you have to have this like you actually this has never been a thing in Netrunner, but you need a mana curve.
Yeah, right.
Like
absolutely,
because in Netrunner, you don't need to have 2, 3, 4, 5 drops. Your money vacillates between ups and downs, and you can play just cheap cards or just 3s and 6s, or just things like that. You don't need to include every part on the curve. Whereas with the chain here, you don't ever want to trigger this and whiff.
Exactly.
So,
and it's interesting too, because like I did a little bit of poking around with Ob this week, and there's certain costs that are kind of underrepresented. Example would be 2 costs, or no, sorry, 1 costs. There's very few 1 cost cards that trash themselves or have a way to trash them, which makes it hard to kind of complete that chain down to 0. And at 0, there's a lot of very high value cards, things like Rashida, NGO, Spin Doctor, stuff like that, like cards that are just always good to have.
Yeah, zero is the place where you live that is like there will always be zeros to grab.
Yep.
But yeah, even on like
But like at one, I think your options are like launch campaign and
again, I
out of faction stuff. Like that's it.
again what the I
And
mourn
yeah, this would be the card.
mourning the loss of advanced assembly lines.
Yeah, this would be the card to play. Absolutely.
everybody
Yep.
everybody just completely mourning this for multiple different, again, the res thing in HB, the free installations. I love this card. This is one of my favorite
Hmm.
cards. Um, it was involved in some really dumb combos because it was printed with like near this.
Yeah.
And friends and I place this as you can see,
Yeah.
banned as shit.
Yeah. Super banned.
So
Twice banned.
yeah. Anyway, but yeah, free tutors will always get people excited, right? Being able to go grab like, oh, yo, I can go grab anything I want based on this, and then maybe
Hmm.
maybe the deck is just I want to build up some specific cards and I want a tutor to always have them, and then I can start scoring in that server that now is built to my specifications.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I do like the fact that it counts down because it does kind of incentivize you to play lower cost cards, which I think is generally probably a good thing to do, even though it's not strictly necessary to meet any sort of curve, like you were saying. Um,
Yep.
very interesting stuff.
Yeah, it might also mean you run this on turn 2 and then the deck goes, oh shit.
Yep.
But so yeah, anyway, that is the entirety of Midnight Sun.
Yeah.
We've looked through Runner, we've looked through Corp.
So
I've
I asked you at the end of the corp, or sorry, at the end of the run interview, but what faction are you most excited for at this point?
I think I'm still most excited for Jinteki. Um,
Hmm.
things like Blood in the Water, things like Bladderwort, things like Anemone really get me interested in like, can I get some sort of PE deck that works going? But even outside
Mm-hmm.
of that, like um Ivik here is actually like I did not, when I saw this first I was like, oh, it's Wall of Thorns. This is actually a more powerful than I thought immediately, and like
Mm-hmm.
Moonpool has a number of uses. Regenesis could be 4 points on the spot. Like Jinteki is
Mm-hmm.
the one that really interests me the most.
Nice. Yeah.
What are you liking out of?
I'm actually like really inspired by NBN this set.
Mmm.
Like I was saying, I love decks that like to stack counters,
Yep.
and I love the art on the ident for NBN in this set. It just looks so good.
Yeah.
I just absolutely want to play this
I'm
so much.
again like, so going through here, and I went through the spoiler on my own and kind of read cards, and I've been really interested in seeing uh seeing cards that like on second look I'm like, wait, no, like Crypto Crash actually looks way better than I thought, because like keep the score window open and just keep rolling is really
Hmm.
cool. Or like, oh, like we literally just have better Ghost Branch, is that good enough? Like
Yeah.
I also, I guess I didn't realize how much of this set is doing kind of some work of like replacing old core set stuff, or just like
Yeah,
unnecessary.
totally. Yeah, there's a lot of. I mean, we could probably count through quickly how many there are. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, because if we're
Um,
just talking about
I
like,
think over half of Jinteki is like, if not replacing, inspired by older cards.
it's like refugee campaign definitely feels like
Hmm.
Eve, Eve style.
Yeah.
Echo and Wave definitely feel like next,
Yep.
in a different direction, obviously, but have that same feeling. Um, down here
Yeah.
we have our Neural Katana, Wall of Thorns.
Yep. Bladderwort is like bioethics. Mitosis is like Mushin. Mavirus is like
Mavias is
Cyberdex.
basically just Cyberdex with
Yeah.
um, and then we have a Ghost Branch +1.
Yep.
You mentioned yourself that this is Matrix Analyzer without the trace.
Yep. We got the
Um,
the the Toll Booth S card, even though it's
yes,
still legal. We have the card inspired by it.
yep. And then like down here, we have a little less of that because it's we have a lot
Yeah.
more. That's,
This is more like new ground for Waylon, I think.
yeah. Like we have a wall. Right? We have a
Yeah.
we have wall of static +1. You get stuck in the
Yeah.
maze. Good job.
I mean, you could say like Stavka's like Grim or something, you know. Like
We've
we
had
haven't
to.
had a really like threatening destroyer in a long time.
Yeah. Funnily enough, the most threatening thing that you can have pop up in my mind is still Bulwark, which is a barrier.
It's true. It's true.
It's like
I don't
Bul-
know. I'm still scared to run into any Fairchild threes, and that's definitely
this
gonna happen.
Bulwark, if it hits 10, is trash a program, Corp gains 2, and the run, which
Yep.
is pretty goddamn bad, especially when it's a barrier with 8.
Yep. Yeah, 8 strength, and you could even get a bonus too if they have AI
Yep.
breaker installed. So
Or
yeah, no, trebuchet. Yep.
Trebuchet is the other one.
Yep.
Trebuchet is like,
Yeah, you know, and like still not as much teeth as Stavka, I think.
yeah, no.
Less strength, same amount of subs, only trashes 1 card.
Mm.
Has a kind of a pseudo end the run effect, but
Trace 6.
yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that's us going through all of Midnight Sun. I'm excited to get some games in for.
Yeah, so you want to do games next Wednesday?
Yeah, let's get some games in next Wednesday. We can finally
Heck yeah.
do some deck building. I've got, as as I showed here, I've got my kind of 1.0 on Asa that
Very nice.
I'm working on that. I'm also going to be building PE, which will be finally the return of Thousand Knives. So
Awesome.
so yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's gonna be it for today. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Dakota, again for
Absolutely.
coming along.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, hope you had a fun time with us going through and talking Netrunner, talking about Nisei's newest release here, and the changes and what that means for our new format coming up. I believe the 5th is when it's official as a format. This Friday is when it like officially rotates.
Yeah, and speaking of, I actually have not placed an order yet. Probably for the best because they were
Get it.
still making some tweaks, but
Yeah, they said there was like 1 or 2 misspellings on a card. So,
yeah.
so yeah. Anyway, so next week we'll get some games in. That'll be some great time. It'll be the same time next week. We'll be starting and try to get a few games in. So
Can't wait.
all right. Anyway, that's gonna be all for today. Tomorrow, Luke and I are gonna be doing more Hollow Knight. Friday should be Cons of Tarkir drafting, and Sunday is more of Mega Man Battle Network. And those are the upcoming streams. So if you want to catch any of those, you can always follow, see when I go live. Subscribe, you get the cool skulls and slimes. Other than that, that's all for today. So have a good night, everybody.